Good afternoon, everybody. You are all very welcome to our webinar on staying connected, gentle steps to feel less alone. My name is Cillian, and I am the Development Officer working with Mental Health Ireland, and I cover the Mid West region of Clare, Limerick, and North Tipperary. So you're all just joining there, coming into the Zoom room. So it's great to have a good number on this topic, which is a very prominent topic around loneliness and isolation. So I'm joined by a really strong panel this afternoon who I'll get to introduce in just a moment or so. But I suppose this topic is really important because it's an issue for so many people out there, the Ireland being one of the highest around loneliness in Europe. And the topic that often comes up when I do workshops and talks in the community is that feeling of loneliness that we can often feel even when we're surrounded by groups of people, even when we're maybe, I suppose, out and about and we feel that sense of isolation or loneliness from time to time. And hopefully, with this conversation today, we'll delve into tips and tools that we can use going forward and just have a general discussion around what does loneliness feel like and why it can be difficult to reach out when times are tough. And then we look at ways that we can rebuild connection in everyday life. And hopefully you, the attendee, will leave with practical tools and tips that you can use going forward or to share on to other people as well. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Really important topic, and I'm looking forward to delving into it. So yeah, just a little bit on the housekeeping. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and if you want to even preload some questions now or even during the webinar that you'd like the panelists to answer, that'd be brilliant because we love to answer any questions that you may have. Then we have this has been recorded for the Mental Health Ireland YouTube channel and the website, the Mental Health Ireland website as well. And it's an ongoing partnership with Mid West ARIES as well, the Recovery Education Service. So other than that, there is a structure of an hour for this session. So we'll be finished by 3 o'clock. But like I was saying with the Q&A function, if you want to put any questions in throughout the webinar, please do, and we'll look forward to answering those questions. So the next slide, I'm just going to go through who Mental Health Ireland are. So quickly fly through this slide and then we'll get delving into the discussion. So Mental Health Ireland are the longest running charity in Ireland, established in 1966. So we promote mental health, well-being and recovery, and we work in co-production. So this would involve a range of different stakeholders, people who have maybe used the mental health services, their family members, carers and supporters and staff working all in around mental health to help us create the modules and courses that we deliver in the community. So co-production is a massive part of the work that we do. I'm one of 10 development officers working around nationally. So I cover the Midwest region. So I have other development officer colleagues on this Zoom call here with me this afternoon. And we have peer recovery and education staff as well, nationally with recovery colleges and recovery education services. So then we have staff dedicated in mental health promotion, training and education, comms and PR and fundraising, and we partake in national, European and international networks as well. So just our mission then is to educate, empower and connect communities, creating a culture where everyone is treated with respect and supported, especially when our mental health is challenged. So what stands out for me in that is the connecting communities. And that's really important because that's the key to, I suppose, to help with isolation and loneliness is to connect with each other, connect with other people in our life, connect with loved ones, family members, friends, whoever it may be. And that's a really important aspect that we'll delve into later on around connection and reconnection in our lives. So that I'll stop the share and I'm just going to invite the panelists to say hello. And yeah, I'm joined by Conor Geoghegan, Noeleen Wills, and Karen Boylan there on the screen. So I'd like Conor, if you want to quickly introduce yourself and say hello, and we'll go from there on to the next panelist. Thanks, Conor.
Thank you, Cillian. Um, Hi, everyone. I'm Conor Geoghegan. I'm the National Development Manager with Mental Health Ireland for the community. And my background is with Mental Health Ireland. I also worked with Alone for a number of years with older persons, and for many years with DePaul, over 18 years working with people experiencing homelessness. Thank you, Cillian.
Brilliant. Thanks, Conor. Great to have you here. Noeleen, you going to say hello?
Yeah, hi folks. Thanks, Conor. So my name is Noeleen Wills. I'm one of those 10 development officers that Cillian mentioned in the intro. I cover South Dublin, East Wicklow. I'm also a psychotherapist, and my mental health and well-being has been impacted with isolation, loneliness over the years as well. So I have a real keen interest in this conversation today, and I'm looking forward to a rich discussion here. Thanks for having me on, Cillian.
Brilliant. Thanks, Millie Noeleen. That's great and great to hear your experience as well. And hopefully we'll delve into that as well and the tips and tools that you use as well. So that's brilliant. Karen, I'll come to yourself. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Boylan, and I'm another development officer covering Midlands, Louth, and Meath. So I suppose maybe up to the past 15 years, my background is working in the area of mental health in the community, so supporting those affected by mental ill health, so family members and people themselves. Um, I'm very passionate about mental health recovery, so that's something that I'll probably touch on today as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Millie and Karen, and great to have you on this webinar and hear your experiences as well. That's brilliant. So we'll delve into the first question, and I'm going to throw out to Conor if you go on to go first on this one. So
Sure.
when people say they feel lonely, what does that actually look like in everyday life?
Thanks, Cillian. It's such an important topic at the moment. Loneliness is typically described, I suppose, as a negative emotional state that is associated with a lack of social connections. And what that looks like, from my experience and from my life experiences, and also working with people in homeless services and older people, it's a smaller, your world gets smaller. You start to want to be able to meet with everyone from your whole town, and then that kind of reduces down to your local neighborhood, and then to just outside your door, and then it might be just you want to be on your own armchair, and that's really these are signs that you are starting to become lonely, and and then you start doing your routines that you start planning are routines with yourself, and that's kind of watching your TV shows or scrolling endlessly. And when you know that you're not really connecting with any of your friends or family, physically and mentally, it can really affect you. It can affect your sleep. It means that because of lack of routine or lack of connection, again, you may be waking up, you may be sleeping all day to just escape from what the outside world, because you might be saying things like, "Sure, what does it matter?" or I don't want to be a bother to anyone. And so you're going in on yourself, I believe, and you're feeling that life is gradually getting quieter for you, and you're starting to be, looking at your own four walls, and it's not a great place to be. The good news is it's not. It's an easy. Well, when I say easy, there are steps that you can take, and we'll tease them out as the day goes today, but it's getting out. What I've found that loneliness is getting out, knocking on the door, being with people. I think is important, even if you're not trying to fix people. It's just being there, sitting beside people, which is very important to your own lifestyle. So for me, what it actually feels like in the day to day is very unique to every individual. Everyone's life is different, and everyone's circumstances are different. It doesn't mean that you're young, old, or middle aged like myself, or like, believe it or not, old yet. But we're all human, and we all have emotions that need positive human connection. So for me, it's a sign that you're inverting into yourself and not communicating with your friends and family.
Brilliant, Connor. You captured a lot in that, and I like what
Mm,
I gathered from that was like going inward on yourself and
mm,
maybe losing that connection, becoming disconnected from others and from people in the day to day. So, and like you said, it's different for everyone.
hmm
People can experience it in so many different ways as well. And I like what you said about the value of that human connection that we all need and strive for as well. So, thank you for that.
Sure.
Karen, I'll go to yourself next on the same question.
Yeah, I suppose when I think of loneliness, I view loneliness as a very personal feeling, which, can be negative and have a negative impact on somebody's overall well-being. It's not often dramatic. It's quite subtle in our everyday lives, and can be very, very quiet. So it could be something like maybe not having anyone to text or to share news with, or feeling you don't have somebody to share news with. It could be eating meals on your own. We know there's a high prevalence in Ireland of people who do feel lonely, and different age groups that it impacts on. So for me, it's, we can look at the small everyday things like the text, or having the meal, or having the chat, or sharing the news. But it's affecting a significant number of people. And that's, why it's so important that we have these conversations, and that we're so public about having those conversations, because there is stigma, to people taking ownership of the fact they are feeling lonely, and maybe reaching out, which isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, to admit that you're lonely. There's a bit of shame for people. Even myself, I would find it very hard to admit, that I was feeling lonely. Where that comes from, I have to figure that out myself. So yeah, just in everyday life, I feel that's where we're at with loneliness.
Brilliant. Thanks, Karen. What you mentioned around the stigma around loneliness as well, that we'll delve a bit more into that as well, because that's a really important aspect as well, of just to tease it out a little bit. So thanks for your reflections on that question. And Noeleen, I'll go to yourself if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think to be fair, Conor and Karen have already covered a good bit in terms of a really nice overview, because personally, I think it can look very different to different people, because we are so unique, we are so individual. Karen mentioned there around the subtlety. So again, I agree, it can be very subtle, and it's something, and if I speak from my own experience, it can kind of creep up. And there can be, or a discomfort in that, in a way. So when I consider loneliness, and I think about like what is that for me, it's very much internal. It's almost like my way of thinking. And even in that, I'm an overthinker. I just am. And that can be great at times, but it can also be a little bit can be challenging at times. And so my thoughts can get into that kind of existential piece that Conor mentioned around, like, I suppose, like what is the point? Especially looking at social media, everybody's getting on with it, everybody's living this full life, and there can be that comparison piece, and comparison can really bring about the isolation and the loneliness piece, because, in terms of that inner dialogue as to, oh, if I do this, or if I do this, or what if I try this, and sometimes the motivation isn't even there to do it, because it depends how far in I might be, if that makes sense. And then there's the physical part, because as Conor mentioned, it can affect our sleep. And there's also been studies into it can increase our blood pressure. And also in terms of our stress response as well, it can impact our stress responses as well. So it's important. And as Karen said, it's really important that we're having conversations like this, because, by the nature of being human, we are going to experience loneliness. We're going to experience times perhaps of being alone. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they're part of life.
Excellent. Thanks, Noeleen. So good. I think even around the subtlety of loneliness that can creep up, like you're saying, and Karen mentioned it as well, and the comparison that we can feel sometimes from others on social media or out and about in daily life, and just not to compare ourselves to other people around their own lives, because we are all living our own unique life, and we should live it the best we can as well. So brilliant, great insights in the first question. So I'm going to move on to the next one. So can you feel lonely even when you're surrounded by people? And why does that happen? Karen, let's start with yourself this time, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel you can feel lonely surrounded by people. And I was thinking about this ahead of today. And from my own experience, if I feel that somebody might not get, something that I've experienced, or um, some feeling I might be having, and I feel like there's nobody I can speak to or connect with around that particular topic or experience or whatever it might be, that can lead me personally to feel lonely in that situation. So I could be, amongst my team, I could be at home with my family, I could be out with my friends, whatever it might be. But if there's something going on for me and I feel I can't connect with somebody who may have a shared or similar experience, it can make me feel quite lonely in that situation. So it's not just about us being physically alone or on our own. It can often just be not being able to connect with somebody around how we might be experiencing a certain situation.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks for sharing that because that's really, really interesting as well. Does anyone else want to come in? Connor, will I come to yourself on
Sure.
the question? Maybe or anything, thoughts? Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
leaning on my experience in homelessness and with older people, I managed homeless hostels for nearly 18 years, and you really see people who are experiencing homelessness when we might have 80 people in the hostel, but they've come in and there might be dozens of men and women around the place, but they would describe themselves as feeling invisible, as not connected to what's around them. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and we have alluded to loneliness can link to other physical health. It could lead down to addiction. It can lead to, I found in the hostels as well, unfortunately, some of the connections people would make wouldn't be the right connections, and which would lead them down to more of a sense of being on their own and how did I end up here? And so you can be around so many people, and in fact, sometimes, yeah, the more people you're around, the lonelier you feel. And definitely in homeless services, I noticed that. And with older people, it's for me, sad isn't the word, but from my mother-in-law and people in care homes, people don't know who they are. They don't know their story. They don't know what makes them laugh, and they can be with lots of people, but they're still lonely in who they are because they're coming to a later stages in life and all of that. So you can be around a lot of people. Um, and I know it from my own. Even if you're in your work, in previous words, if you're in a personal, if you're not feeling right yourself and things are happening in your life, even though you're working with a lot of people or connections, sometimes you just want to be back to what Karen said about stigma as well. Sometimes you don't want to admit that you're feeling lonely because it's a feeling of failure. It's a feeling, however, it's not. But so loneliness, it doesn't matter because it's individualized. It doesn't matter if you're in a lot of people. It's the quality of connections that's important. It's not the who how many people you're around.
Brilliant, Connor. I love that just around the quality of connections as well, just to make sure that we have maybe it's just one person that we can trust or confide in as well around our difficulties or our challenges. And what I gathered from what you're saying is that it kind of starts with ourselves, that we have to kind of just kind of work on, yeah, just the transition in life from, I suppose, middle age to transition into older age or whatever it may be, to kind of, keep working and finding what brings us joy at different stages of life as well. Is that what I'm kind
And
of
it
gathering
varies
here?
exactly,
Yeah,
Cillian. And,
yeah,
and I think the only thing that we're in control of most of the time is ourselves, And I
yeah.
know we're with Mental Health Ireland and we could be challenged on that a number of times. But when it comes down to it, it's a decision I think you make personally. But we give more tips on that as we go along.
Great. Thanks, Connor. That's brilliant. And
Sure.
Noeleen, I'll come to yourself just on the question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think Connor hit the nail on the head there. And they were the words that were coming to me was the quality of the connection. And I know in some of our programs like five ways to wellbeing and stuff like I'd often speak about, the way we don't really think about it much in terms of, the way some people can be like radiators or drains, as in the people we have around us. Right? And some people can, really light us up and we love spending time with them. And then there can be people who like it might be a little bit more of a challenge, to be around for whatever reason. It could be a million and one reasons, right? But I think to consider the people who we do spend time with, and to consider the quality, as kind of mentioned, of those connections is really important. I think especially if there is like that, like similar interests or depth. Like, for instance, if you're going to chuck me into a room full of football fans, right? Am I going to be able to have the chats? No. So I'm probably going to feel a little bit, oh, I'm not ready to contribute to this. Whereas there's a million and other things like chuck me in a room with and I'll talk about music or whatever. But even having that awareness, I think that can support us then around making those decisions around maybe some of the spaces that we might lean into or some of the people that we might lean into. It's a bit like finding your people, finding your tribe, do you know? And also be mindful though when perhaps we do have to, because the nature of life, we have to like be in the world and work with people that we, may not have similarities with, but actually to be able to mind ourselves in that as well. Does that make sense?
Really good. I like it. Just finding your
Yeah,
tribe, because that can be hard to find at different stages of life as well as we,
wholeheartedly.
you know, just to throw it back, how can people, I suppose, find their tribe at different stages of life? I suppose if you're whatever age, I suppose, how can you find outlets or resources or whatever it may be to just feel less alone, maybe? Might just throw back to you. Only,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Well, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking obviously, social media is one, and look, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of challenges with social media, but I'm noticing, for instance, I moved into a new complex about 2 years ago. Didn't really know anybody, but none of us did. So we were all kind of just like coming in and setting up together. And so like a WhatsApp group got set up. And then from that, then we've say an additional group that a group of us kind of came together. The irony about it is we are from we're very different ages, very different life experience, very different careers, like just very, very different. But actually, we make it a point to we have that group, so it's very supportive in that way. Because a number of people live on their own. But also we arrange to meet up. And we've done that for the past 2 years, and it's just fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. And I mean, moving into a new area, there's no way I would have thought that that was one of the bonuses. But also moving into a new area, then there's some of the localities, like the likes of libraries, to see what local groups are on. And then also some of the like areas of interest. So if people say of interest in something like training or the gym, or the swimming pool or whatever like that, there's often notice boards. And then there's the locals. Do you know, there's kind of like they're going to get a cup of coffee and asking the locals that old chestnut. I mean, there's some suggestions just off the top of my head.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Tony. That's really good. Just wanted to delve into it because it was just what you were saying. It would be really important for people to know around what to do, and I love the idea of in the new area as well of getting to know the neighbours and meeting up and
Mhm.
everything else. That's so good, so good. So we'll move on to the next question. There might be a little bit of overlap on this question, and it's around what are some reasons as to why people might pull back from others when they are struggling. So I know we might have touched on it a little bit, but I think if we can delve a little bit deeper into that one. And Karen, will I go to yourself first? Will that be okay? Thanks.
Um, so why do people pull back when they're struggling? Because it's human would be my first response. It's a very human reaction to take that step back and pull back, due to fear or just not being in a place at that moment. So they might not want to feel like a burden. A lot of people lack energy. We were talking there about how loneliness can impact on our physical health as well. Our stress level, our inflammation, all of those things. So the low energy, it can be very, very difficult. So people can pull back. And then it goes back to the stigma, the shame that somebody might feel about how they're feeling. Um, so we know that that loneliness is closely linked to mental health challenges, but it is also as linked to physical health and the impact on our physical health. So when somebody is struggling, they might withdraw, but that can increase the loneliness on top of the experience. So yeah, it's just be mindful of those things.
Brilliant. Thanks, Karen. Do you want to come in there, Connor, on the question? That's brilliant, Karen. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I agree with Karen about the shame and the exhaustion. It's tiring being it's loneliness. It can be mentally tiring, where to build up to have a small talk with people or to start a conversation. You may be maybe overwhelming depending where you are in your world at the time. The other thing I would have noticed about why reasons why people would back away is, and this is more again back to my working with people with experience in homelessness, would be they've been let down by people in the past before. They've been rejected by people, and sometimes they might reject people before they get rejected. It's a feeling of self-protection. And they're, from my experience, if working with people that are experiencing that, it's step by step, it's slowly, slowly. It's a gentle hello. It's not expecting too much out of people until you build the trust up again. So yeah, I definitely think there is a shame associated with it. Not rightly so, but there's a feeling that why am I lonely? But then, when you look at the statistics relating to Ireland, we're per capita, as we know, we're one of the loneliest countries in Europe per capita, with about 18 to 20% of us feeling that we are lonely. We are lonely, or very close to being lonely. So, and from other the studies are, I'm interested. We might touch on later about the youth. I've touched on homelessness and older people, because people will always feel that older people, it seems to be that, thinking that this the older rural person that's lonely. But we'll touch on the youth of today and how lonely they're getting as well. So I think the only to add to Karen's would be a sense of self-protection is why they pull back.
Really good, really interesting, Connor, and like that phrase as well. So yeah, we'll delve into it. And even the step-by-step approach of how people can connect again. You were talking about there, cycle. That's the next
Yep.
question. So I'll just go to Noeleen
Okay, go.
first on the previous question, and then sure we'll tackle that one. So Noeleen, you happy enough to?
Yeah, the question being some of the reasons people can pull back. I was thinking even about like significant life events. Because for instance, let's say life changes. I was at a retirement party earlier on. So I know retirement, when people have like particular routines, and if they're challenged in any way or if they're taken away, for some people retirement can be, for others not necessarily. But any of those kind of like life shifts, perhaps sudden health, especially if that's like a chronic health condition, uh, perhaps physically we're not able to do what it is that we were able to do. And I think particularly when it comes to health, if health is impacted, there can be a sense, and even if I speak just from my own experience of other people are getting on with their lives, and that can feel really, really lonely. Because it's almost like, and I know that this phrase was used during COVID, but like that new normal, please don't throw things at me for saying that, but in a way, there's that adapting, there's that shifting. And that can also be then have those additional feelings of like if there's an unfairness or something attached to it. Relationship breakdowns. I mean, that can be a significant one because if you're used to, say, your WhatsApp pinging away or phone calls and that connection and that depth of connection, and then if that's gone, that can be really hard. Be really hard, and it takes time to adapt. And then there's other emotions in there as well. There can be sadness and all of that as well. So I think there's a lot of reasons why, and I think in a way it can be a strength to pull back at times, to be able just to regroup and then step back out again. But equally just to be mindful of that life is going to challenge us, it is going to throw those things at us. And that's okay too.
Brilliant. Thanks, Noeleen. I like what I captured from that was like even if it was a physical health challenge and the adaptation to that and
Yeah.
so it's the new transition from that to where it used to be and things like that. That takes time to, I suppose, get into a new routine again. But like you said, the strength and kind of just coming back, being self-aware of how I am, where I'm at, and what I could do going forward as well. So I really like that piece. So just there's a Q&A button here at the bottom. I'm just going to pause for a second. And if any questions from the attendees, if you'd like to ask anything. We have two in at the moment, and it was like, will the recording be available later? It will. It'll be on the Mental Health Ireland website and the YouTube channel as well for Mental Health Ireland. And then on it, but then following on from Connor's comment, I keep reminding myself that no company is better than bad company. So that's just a comment in there from one of the attendees. So that's great. So the next question is, what is a gentle first step that someone could take to connect, but they feel a little bit stuck? So, Connor, I'll come to yourself first, and then Karen, I'll come to you after that.
Y- Yeah, be kind to yourself is an opening. It's something that's come to my mind, but don't try too much too fast. You know, a simple hello to people. Don't try to make friends really quick. Don't try to start a conversation too quick. So the gentle first step might be, you know, if you're in the depths of loneliness, might be with your neighbors saying hello. How are you today? But not something that's going to put you in, if you're not feeling in the right place, put you feeling uncomfortable or anything like that. Um, Go somewhere that's with the crowd. You know, that could be, you know, the one great thing about the Irish system is the libraries. The libraries is a great place just to sit, or a park, or a coffee shop, or areas where there's people there where you might get an hello, and what that might do. Um, I would, you know, one of our colleagues, obviously, and we at Mental Health Ireland, we do Woodlands for Walks. You know, so nature-based walking with somebody, you know, if plan something, you know, go out. What's in your community? Is there local walks? Is there something that you feel that you could do that's not going to push you too hard, that you can, you know, gently ease yourself into? And then I think I mentioned at the start the concept of not being face to face with somebody and how are you and all that, just chatting away. The conversations will flow. It's just taking time, not pushing yourself, not being hard on yourself, been kind, but even one connection during the day is the start of a connection. And then one last thing I'd add in that, if you are doing walks, add a routine. If you're saying, if you know that every Tuesday morning at 10 or every Thursday at 5, I do this, it starts to become part of your life, or opposed to you having to make time for it. So yeah, I'd suggest be kind to yourself, small steps, and try to be in a group where there's people.
Brilliant. Thanks, Connor. What you're kind of saying around the walks and in nature, and we all know how vitally important it is to be out in nature, but even linking into a group that's on consecutively, and like you said, the Woodlands for Health is all
Mm.
around nationally with Mental Health Ireland. It
Hmm.
could be something of interest for people who are attending this afternoon. But yeah, really good. Thanks a million. Karen, I'll come to yourself.
Yeah, I would think with gentle first steps, if you're feeling stuck and you're feeling lonely, start small. It's going back to what Conor just mentioned there. It's not about starting big conversations when you're not comfortable, or ready to do that. So it could be sending a message, a text message maybe to somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while or reached out to in a while. Or going to your local coffee shop and just sitting in the space. It's not that you need to talk to anybody or start a conversation. Now, of course, you can if you want to. Start a conversation, but even sitting amongst others can be helpful as a gentle first step. And I suppose recognizing, because we've mentioned there the statistics about how many people in Ireland, feel loneliness, and recognizing you're not on your own. You may feel very alone and very lonely, but you are not on your own. There's a high number of people out there, 1 in 5, as we said, that are feeling similar to yourself. So kind of just having that in the back of your mind all the time. It's not you. It's a lot of people, can be useful. So the goal wouldn't be to have a big conversation. It's just breaking that initial barrier, I think, would be a very gentle way to start. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Karen. And that's it. It's recognizing that you're not on your own as well. That's really key. And it's obviously different for everyone, but that there's so many people that experience similar things that we go through around the loneliness and the like I think it's the atmosphere of a coffee shop is great. Even if you're just sitting and just having a coffee, I think just that feeling that there's people around. I often find I just go to the coffee shop and sit down for a couple of minutes just to be around people and but not necessarily be chatting to anyone. But I think it's just the atmosphere as well, which is nice. Noeleen, will I come to yourself there on that question and we'll move on then because there's a Q&A chat there and I'll come to that then after that. Thanks, Noeleen.
Sure, I think it's fair. Like Conor and Karen, that's a mouthful. Conor and Karen, have covered a multitude there in terms of some really good ideas, and I think I love the, the start small that Karen speaks about because I think often for me it's about connecting with myself first to actually consider what is going on, where am I in terms of my wellness? Because for me, in terms of my wellness, if I'm feeling very say good or very well, then yeah, I can join certain groups or reach out to neighbors or whatever. But actually, if depending on perhaps how long I might be, perhaps if I'm isolating or if I'm feeling a little bit more lonely in that regard, it can be a little bit harder to get back to a bit of a baseline. So that piece around connecting with self. And also, I suppose, yeah, not the big stuff, not the stuff, because if anything, that can just become another stick to beat ourselves with, because I can't do this or I can't do that. And we don't necessarily want to get into that either. But some of those, even down to, and if somebody, say, doesn't perhaps feel like reaching out, as in getting out, there can be the likes of like the Samaritans helpline is there, because also we might feel or be feeling particularly alone. It could be like, 2, 3 in the morning. There may not be the option to get out into a coffee shop. Although I do love that. And I love that even around, being able to go get a cup of and just watch people just watch the world go by, because sometimes that's enough. And I've even noticed in terms of how like we would work from home a lot because obviously we're all based around the country. And there's some days I'm just conscious that if I'm, say, working here and there's too much just me time, as in working, I actually have to get out. I have to go see people. I've got to link in with some of the community partners. I have to do it, but for my own well-being. Otherwise, I could be here after 4 days and then I'm wondering why I'm feeling a bit deflated, why I feel a bit heavier. So there is that impact. But definitely checking in with myself. I think that's and so we can check in with ourselves. I think is what I'm saying is
It's
as
brilliant.
important.
That's great, Noeleen. And I'm very like yourself as well around even if I'm at home all day on the laptop, I need to get out for lunch just to go for like just to the coffee shop just to say hello to someone if I'm stuck at the desktop all day or the laptop because that's important and it feeds my well-being as well that I said hello to someone at lunch or whatever else and it's really important for connection as well. So that's great. Any more to add before we move on? I'm just going to go to the comment and the Q&A button. Are we happy enough with that? Yeah. I'll just read it out there. So that's perfect. So if anyone wants to come in on this, feel free after I've read it out. So the attendee said, what would you recommend for someone who really struggles to approach people and start a conversation? That's my biggest fear, and I really get worried in social situations and will spend a long time in silence on my own because I'm petrified of going up to someone. I want to really change this, but I get really nervous and struggle to make the initial first move. Once the conversation started, or if someone comes up to me, I feel fine. What's the point of having to go up to someone new? But just thanks a million for contributing that question or that question to the attendee. And hopefully I'll just throw it out to the panel. Does anyone want to come in on that? So it's around, I suppose, starting new conversations maybe around that. So does anyone want to come in?
Yeah,
Karen, you're unmuted. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
yeah, it just and that is really challenging. Some people find social interaction massively challenging and very, very difficult. So thank you to the person for sharing that first of all. But Conor mentioned something earlier about routine and having a routine. So if somebody is finding it difficult to make a connection or have that initial social interaction, going to maybe a space. So it could be a coffee shop, it could be a walking group, it could be whatever area that you're interested in, and going there regularly or attending that group or activity regularly, without I suppose, the pressure of having to have. Um, a conversation, or but you can get to know people, and having that routine of attending, I suppose, so familiar faces over time will build connection naturally, without having the stress of, feeling that I have to do this or I have to speak to that person. So it can be like that, the small steps, just being in the space, having a regular routine of attending whatever it is that you're interested in or you're used to. And then the connection tends to form naturally without the pressure. So I hope that helps.
That's excellent, Karen. And I like what you said, just the connections build naturally. That's
Mm.
really important, that it's not forceful or anything like that. It's just a organic conversation and they can build on from there to meet other people as well. So, Conor, were you going to commence? Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, and thanks for the question again. I think it's a very good question. It's not easy in today's world because there's a fear of going up and to somebody and then getting rejected, and that doesn't help at all. It kind of reaffirms the difficulty of it. On the back of what Karen's saying as well, routine definitely. But I consider volunteering. Volunteering in your local community is it gives you a sense of purpose again, but it also gives it's a win-win. For I've volunteered, I've volunteered obviously on local soccer and GAA teams as well, but I've seen the benefit of when I worked with Alone of people volunteering to support older people on visitation or on telephone calls. You get a lot on that one. But regarding trying to connect with people, back to the volunteering in your local community, it'll be done at you're coming at it at an angle that everyone's helping a certain cause, and so you're not trying to instigate the conversation. And similar to what Karen has said, it will come up naturally. It would feel, and you will feel that you're giving something back, and I think the concept of giving something makes you. Makes you feel more purpose, as I said, but also self-worth in what you're doing as well. So I would suggest that, yeah, look in your local community, but don't volunteer for the sake of it. Volunteer in something that you particularly like, and that could be working with a tidy towns, it could be working with the local sports, but it could be working on anything. Yeah, but try and figure what suits you best. And I think you need to give it time as well. Time is an important aspect here as well, because you could go and volunteer and say, well, that didn't work the first day, but as Karen said, routine, keep going back, keep showing up, and then I think that should be a good help.
Brilliant, Conor. And just so we had a chat before the call around the 5 ways to well-being and how
Yeah.
important that is, or a part of connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give of the
Mm,
5 ways. So, like you were talking about giving, volunteering, the
mm.
ripple effect of that on not just themselves, but for the community and just that positivity around it as well. So it's a twofold kind of thing as well. So, Noeleen, I'll come to yourself if you have any thoughts around the question from the
Yeah,
attendee.
yeah, thank you. I was just thinking there, and thank you for asking that question because that's a very honest question to ask. So thank you so much. And if anybody has any questions, please do pop them into the Q&A first. I really hear, when you ask the question about, you mentioned the word petrified. And I'm wondering if maybe the way I like to look at things like that is that it's almost like a muscle. So we can work on it, we can work it out, to be able to get to a place. So, and that can be about practicing. And so I wonder if there might be something in it. Again, I don't know, but in maybe practicing on some of the where the odds aren't too big. And what I mean by that is perhaps in a shop or, next time you're in the supermarket and maybe instead of going to the self checkout, maybe go to a checkout person and maybe, say hello and something very just gentle that might still feel really big, but at least it's almost like building up that little bit of practice. Similar if you're in, I don't know, getting diesel or something and or petrol and just perhaps asking the person how they are and or have a nice day. And so maybe that it's not even about expecting anything in return, but maybe just practicing using your voice or practicing, some of what you might say. So I don't know, that can be it's just something that came to mind in terms of it could be a nice way to start to just flex that muscle a little bit. And then the more that we flex it, then we might get a little bit more confidence. And then, maybe then the next time we go in, maybe it might be a case of, oh, it's a lovely day, isn't it? Or but start gentle, start small, and start to build that trust and that confidence in yourself and in your voice as well. Because you'd probably be amazed actually that people will probably, I think 9 times out of 10, respond and engage with. Because I think a lot of people are really craving connection away from screens. So I don't know if that helps, but you know,
That's
hopefully,
brilliant.
hopefully. And
That's
best of
brilliant,
luck with
Noeleen.
this.
Thanks a million. Oh, that's really, really good. And there was a question then in on the Q&A then around, do you have any advice on overcoming social anxiety? And I say some of the tips maybe overlap what you've mentioned there on that question. Does anyone want to come in on that piece around social anxiety? Any tips or just for the attendee? Just leave it open there for a second.
I
Noeleen, do
don't
you want to
mind
come back in?
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't mind coming
perfect.
back
Yeah.
in. And the
Yeah,
reason the reason
perfect.
why
Yeah.
is I used to struggle with social anxiety years ago, a number of years ago. And I suppose something that did really help was one, having a place to be able to get to know why I was feeling anxious socially. And I suppose because the way I look at anxiety is personally, anxiety is in a way it's a messaging just to let us know that there's something that's sitting there. And I know with anxiety it can be quite, again, talking from my own experience, it can be uncomfortable. There's a discomfort to it, but as opposed to say putting it over there, I kind of wanted to get to know it a little bit. So I leaned into some therapy around it, and particularly CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, can be very helpful with the thoughts and that kind of thinking piece around social anxiety. And if there's any irrational thoughts around social anxiety, alongside the getting to know it. So some of what I shared a moment ago in terms of, say, like talking to people out and about, whether it's in supermarkets, they are things actually that I did myself. And because what would happen is when at times when I would talk, my voice would actually almost close over, so no words would come out. And I got really, really paranoid about this, and I used to have panic attacks. So there was that like double kind of a oh dear, you know. So having support around it, but also getting to know it, really supported me to be able to figure out how do I suppose do what I want to do and have the conversations that I want to have along with all of this, along with while I'm breaking out in a cold sweat or my knees are shaking or all of that physicality that comes with my central nervous system being really really overcharged. So I don't know if some of that helps, but I think there's a few things, especially around the supportive piece, the getting to know it, and then the testing it, the kind of like the flexing that muscle a little bit, but gently, really, really gently, because it's there for a reason, and we want to be very respectful of that too.
Super. That's brilliant, Oli, and hopefully that has helped the attendee with that question. So that's really, really good. So anyone else want to come in on that? Are we happy to move on? All good, yeah. So we're not too far from, I suppose we're 10 minutes less or away from finishing up, but the hour has almost flown by in a really good discussion. And I do want to share some signposting resources on the Mental Health Ireland website and some of our workshops that we do. So I suppose we talked around routines and volunteering and reducing loneliness. So what would be a piece of advice for someone to try this week to feel more connected? And Connor, I might come to yourself first on that one, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Cillian. Yeah, back to routine. I think it's trying to develop one. And having an ad hoc phone call to a friend, maybe organize that I'll call you to talk to a friend and say, or family, I'll call you every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Um, so then it's something that you're looking forward to. It doesn't become something that is out of the blue, and it's structured. I think it having some structure in that will also definitely and predictability. When it's predictable, it becomes safe, and then you feel like you're in a better safe. Um, Similar to the predictability of routines, we talked about walking. And even with the anxiety question there as well, the concept of being, our 5 ways to well-being that we teach, that we train in Mental Health Ireland. The concept of getting out and being active and connecting and taking notice and giving and keep learning. They're evidence-based and they really do work. So I would. I would suggest that you take you look at something that is regular for you on a weekly basis. You'll start to be recognized if you keep going out and you keep going to the same walks, and people will recognize you, and people will also um, you'll be feel part of a group. And then back to the sense, of and I don't volunteering is that it's the sense of I now I am giving back to what and I know I've mentioned it before, but giving back, it's all about bringing up your self-worth again. Because loneliness, it can be, I'm out of society, I'm introverted now, how do I get back in? But the gentle, small steps are the most important ones. But I can't emphasize routine as much, because if you don't have routine, and that it leads to going to bed at a good time, having your food at a good time. I know from studying my mum, she's passed a number of years, but I remember when she lived alone for about 20 years, and she'd be up all night all the time, and for me, it was always a sign that she was lonely or vulnerable in the sense that, and we'd be trying to, because when we'd meet her, she'd be up all night. So routine is so important, and slowly do it. You know what I mean? If you don't miss the routine, don't beat yourself up. There's always the next one. You are the person who controls what you do. So be gentle to yourself. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Connor. Karen, do you want to come in on the piece of advice? Thank you.
Yeah, so I suppose a simple takeaway is, and it goes back to what we were talking about with the routine, but low pressure. Nobody needs to put pressure on themselves, because we don't change overnight. We don't become lonely overnight. It tends to take time. So it's the same as overcoming it. So you could maybe decide one day a week at a particular time, I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to follow this route. If you enjoy walking, or it could be joining a class, could be, deciding to take up some voluntary work, as Conor talked about. The routine is powerful because it provides structure, which can provide us with some security. The regular contact that we talked about, the building familiarity with other people and making that connection very, very naturally without pressure, I think is kind of the key takeaway. One small thing to connect each week. I wouldn't even say every day, even maybe to begin with, say once a week, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. Um, the small If they're small and repeated actions, you can change that feeling of loneliness, I feel.
Great, Karen. Yeah, one small thing a week is a good tip, and then it just can build from there onwards as well. So that's great. Thank you. Noeleen, just come to yourself finally.
Yeah, I'm going to take that tip as well. That one small thing myself, just in terms of motivation, because I know on the back of, say, January and February in the dark months, motivation can be low anyway. Um, so I mean, I suppose I'm thinking even for anybody on the webinar, just to consider, like, what is that? If there is something that you'd like to change, what is that? And I don't mean like the big giant ones. I mean the ones that might be achievable. So maybe even to give some thought and consideration to what that might be, and then to look at maybe, okay, how might I put that plan in place? Like, for instance, we probably all have, that one person who it's like, I must reach out to such and such, or that person from like way back when, oh yeah, I must get in touch, or something like that, even, so something that maybe is achievable, but has been on the list and possibly, can get pushed down the list. And maybe it's a case of just, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to pick one of those and I'm going to actually reach out and reconnect. Because it can be very easy to get caught up in like the everyday, as opposed to adding those additional pieces in there as well. So yeah, so I'm hoping that, anybody on the webinar, they might consider, what is that perhaps they'd like to change, a small doable change, and then consider how they might go about that.
Yeah, I really like that, Noeleen. It's I often do it as well. If I haven't heard from a mate or a friend in a good few weeks, I must just throw out the text and just try and meet for coffee because I think it's sometimes it's down to us as well to make the extra effort because like we're all busy, we're all leading really busy life, but I like to kind of just see how the lads are doing or cousins or whoever it may be just to see how they're doing. And it's always good because I'm sure whoever gets the text is happy about it, I'm sure, hopefully. But we get to meet up then and have a bit of a laugh then as well. So yeah, that's brilliant. So what I'm going to do, thank you to the panelists, Conor, Noeleen, and Karen. We're coming close to the end. I'm just going to share some slides just on some information on Mental Health Ireland and some of our campaigns. So bear with me for a second and I'll get the share up. I just want to say thanks to the attendees as well, just for your questions. I hope you have enjoyed the chat, the discussion. This is also, like I was saying, recorded for the Mental Health Ireland YouTube channel and the website as well. So I'll just go to the slide that I was going to talk about. So this is some of our campaigns that we do every year. So the one that's upcoming next is the Hello, How Are You campaign. So it's on the 15th of May. It's on the 15th of May every year, but it falls on a Friday this year. And as I said, as on the slide, it's about connecting with those around us and engaging in open conversation around mental health. So it's helped to reduce stigma and just have nice conversations around mental health to spread more awareness as well. So really, really a great campaign that just gets us engaging with the public and in the community in different events as well. So if you will find more information on the Mental Health Ireland website as well on that upcoming campaign, and you'll see plenty on our social media over the coming weeks as well, because it's coming around thick and fast. Then we have our Mental Health Month then, which is October, and it marks World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. So that will be later on in the year. And then we won't talk about Connectmas because we're just through Connectmas or Connect Christmas already, so a bit far away. But Connectmas is a campaign just around positive awareness around mental health during the Christmas period. So that is that campaign. Then we have some of our workshops. So we have step one, engage with mental health. We have an introduction to mental health and well-being. We have also a talk version of this, which is 45 to an hour long around the 5 ways to well-being. Then step two is expand your well-being toolkit. And step three, then let's talk about what matters, navigating conversations for mental health around managers in the workplace as well. So that's some of our workshops. All of this is on the Mental Health Ireland website as well, mentalhealthireland.ie. And that is the last slide. And yeah, that is pretty much it, I think. Just again to say thank you to all the attendees. It's been a great discussion, and I've really enjoyed just hearing from all of the panelists, just on loneliness, just the prominent topic that it is, and your experiences, your insights, your knowledge shared. And I hope you, the attendee, took a lot away from this discussion because I definitely did as well. So. If anyone would like to come in and say a quick goodbye, because we're just 2 minutes away from closing off. Conor, I'll come to yourself. You want to say a quick goodbye?
Yeah, goodbye, and thanks all the attendees and for my fellow panelists. And thank you,
Thanks,
Cillian.
Conor. Yeah, no worries. Noeleen, I'll come to yourself.
Yeah, thanks, folks. A privilege as always. I always learn so much from these webinars as well. So it's been really, really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you for the questions, folks, as well. And I wish everybody the best.
Brilliant. Thanks, Noeleen. And Karen, finally, thank you.
Yeah, just to thank everybody, in particular Cillian, who has put so much preparation into today's webinar. So thanks, Cillian, and for supporting us to be on the panel as well. And thanks to everybody for attending today. And it's great to see that the conversation is happening and that people are interested. Yeah, so thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Karen, and thanks, Noeleen and Conor. And we'll see you again at the next webinar. Thanks a million. See you soon.